So today we're talking about Avalon Hills outdoor survival. And I like to preface my game discussions with a little bit of general information that pertains to the game. So today I'm going to talk about the ways that you die in the wilderness, at least the most common ones. Now, when people think about dying in the North American wilderness, they tend to think of threats like bears, mountain lions, snakes, wolves, serial killers. But those are all really low probability threats. Your odds of dying from a bear, a mountain lion, a snake, a wolf, or a serial killer are actually pretty low. Even your odds of dying from starvation are fairly low. You can live up to 2 months without food. Now, hunger may make you do some stupid stuff, but as far as actually surviving out there, starvation is going to be one of the least of your worries. Unfortunately, the things that can kill you are a little more mundane. Probably the first one that's pretty common is dehydration. Now, I said you can live 2 months without food. You can only live about 3 days without water. And if the climate is hot and dry, such as the American Southwest, you can dehydrate even more quickly. Another problem with dehydration is that once your electrolytes get out of whack, you start to think poorly and you make bad decisions that can get you hurt. Advice to this is take more water than you'll need. Take a canteen and you think about taking a second one. You need at least a gallon a day to get by. Second thing that can happen to you out in the wilderness are falls. Don't ever overestimate your ability to climb, particularly if you're hungry, if you're tired, if you're cold, if you're wet, or if you're thirsty. Wear proper footwear. Reduce the weight that you're carrying. It used to be quite fashionable to carry big old 50 to 75 pound packs. Today people are carrying 25 to 30 pound packs for a backpacking trip. And reducing the weight can eliminate even minor falls that could hurt you and could be a real problem in the backcountry. Being well conditioned can prevent a lot of fall problems. Next is drowning. Now, drowning occurs most commonly when people are trying to cross streams. And it's important when crossing streams that you maintain 3 points of contact at all times. So this is where things like hiking poles come in and are important. So trying to keep 3 points of contact when you're moving along. And with 2 hiking poles, you can cross a stream a little more safely. Also, always think about turning around as an option. If a stream looks like it might be difficult to cross and you're in doubt, then turn around. Becoming proficient in water safety and taking a water safety course can also be helpful in preventing drowning. And drowning is one of those things that's kind of mixed in with the falls thing. A lot of time people will be crossing a stream, have a fall, hurt themselves, and then at that point end up drowning. Lightning. Lightning is a very common cause of fatalities in the backcountry. It is particularly a problem at high altitudes where there's a lot of exposure, such as along ridge lines and on top of mountains. So it's good to get up on these mountaintops early in the day and start heading down to lower elevations by early afternoon. Also, if a storm is rolling in, find a low area to get into and avoid lone tall trees. Another common killer out there is hypothermia. Hypothermia is simply getting too cold. Everybody always thinks this is a problem when it's snowing or when it's below freezing, but you're actually at even higher risk when it's wet and there's high humidity and the temperature's in the 40s and 50s. People are often unprepared for temperatures that are cool but not cold. It can often lead to impaired judgment. You just want to get warm. You see your car 200 yards away, but there's some cliff faces between you and the car, and you decide you can climb down those cliff faces and end up falling. So always take insulative clothing, particularly things like wool, and take clothing that can keep you dry. Those are just good things to take with you even on day hikes. Outdoor survival. Outdoor survival is probably one of the lowest ranked Avalon Hill games. A lot of people hate this game. It was produced by Jim Dunnigan, and the legend behind the game is that Jim was boasting that he could write a game on anything over a weekend. Supposedly, one of the writers he was working with told him to get lost, and he came up with the idea of outdoor survival over that weekend. Well, that's probably not true. It is true that he did produce it over a weekend, and he was involved in a bet to try to produce a game on an obscure subject. For being such an unpopular game, it was actually one of Avalon Hill's highest selling games. It was produced in cooperation with Stackpole Books, which was a publisher of outdoor activity type books. The distribution was widespread. The National Park Service placed a lot of copies of this in their gift shops. Outdoor Survival is a very rules-light game, and it tends to be hated by a lot of more serious gamers. One of the biggest problems is that it comes in a set of 5 scenarios, and the first scenario, Lost, is just absolutely horribly designed. It is very, very, very difficult to win. You tend to end up starving to death fairly quickly. You can't make a lot of good decisions, and the game is pretty much against you from the start. However, it has 4 other scenarios that get a little bit better and provide the player a few more chances to stay alive in the wilderness. Now, in the Lost scenario, it's assumed that the players have absolutely no experience in the wilderness and that they're probably either morons or drunk, so they just kind of tend to wander around till they die. One of the more interesting things about the game, too, is that it comes with all these little chits, and a lot of the chits have movement rates on them, and the movement rates go down to 0, and there's actually several of these chits that have a 0 movement rate, which is rather ludicrous. So movement is determined by rolling a 6-sided dice and then checking the scenario card, and it tells you how you can move. So to cross terrain hexes, it costs a certain number of movement points. It costs 1 movement point to cross a clear terrain hex. It costs 2 movement points to cross a woods or rough hex. It costs 3 movement points to run through a mountain hex. Those are some examples. Crossing a river costs 3 points. And you can move through any combination of varying terrain, but you have to have enough movement points to make it through that terrain. So if, for instance, you had 6 movement points, and you wanted to cross a clear terrain hex of 1, a river hex of 3, then you spent 4 movement points, and then say you wanted to cross a mountain hex of 3, you would be unable to, because the mountain hex would cost 3, and that's greater than the 7 movement points that you have. In the first scenario, you have to end your movement on a food, which are these deer, or water, and water are either streams or ponds, not marshes. If you're unable to end your movement on a food or water, then you have to subtract 1 on either the water or food on your life level index. So if you can get food, then you have to subtract 1 water. If you're in movement on a water, you have to subtract 1 food. If you end up ending movement on a hex that doesn't contain food or water, you have to remove 1 of each. These accumulate, and every time it says lose 1 life level, then you go to the next life level down. So A becomes B, becomes C, becomes D, etc. As you go down in life levels, your movement rate declines. And you pretty much circle the drain until you die. Okay, let's show how to play it. Okay, let's look at Outdoor Survival. This is an old copy I've had since, I think, about 1979, so it's had quite a bit of wear to it. But I've still got most of the stuff that it came with. So looking into the box, you've got some chits. You've got these sheets here, which are your life level index chart, and I'll show those a little bit and how those work. Let's see, I don't know if I can still get a hold of Avalon Hill for some replacement parts, but I'd like to. Let's see. The rules, a catalog from 77. And it came with this primer about wilderness skills for the players of the game. And this was done by Stackpole Books. This was a joint project between Stackpole and Avalon Hill. Kind of an interesting little book on survival. Most of the stuff is not the greatest suggestions. So one of my favorites is on first aid in this. They've got a medical kit. And they're suggesting that you take aspirin with codeine, some compazine, some sulfasoxidine, which they don't even make anymore, erythromycin, and dexedrine. I like the fact that you're taking dexamphetamine with you in your first aid kit. Comes with a movement chart, which shows the movement cost for entering different types of terrain. Comes with these scenarios, and first scenario being lost, second scenario being, let's see, survival. That's getting across the board. There's a search survival and a rescue survival, and finally a most dangerous game pursuit survival. Came with a single dice and this handy dandy map board, which the map board actually looks pretty cool. Now this map board was originally intended, or actually not originally, but Gary Gygax saw this map board and suggested using it for wilderness encounters in Dungeons & Dragons. And so a lot of copies of this game were sold for that very purpose. And let's just set up the map board here. Like I say, I like the color on it. As a kid, I always thought that was pretty neat how colorful this thing was. I kind of wish it would have been geomorphic where you could have added them on and on and on. I think that would have been pretty cool. So let's set a game up. Let's assume that Chad, Brent, and I don't know, let's call him Hunter. We're all on a plane back from Padre Island, and it crashed. So let's, we'll say Chad, Brent, and Hunter. And they're stuck in the middle of the wilderness. We'll give it the scenario lost. And we'll give them all life level index charts here. Now, the way the game was supposed to be set up was you were supposed to take all these little chits and place them on these life level indexes. I'm not going to do that. That's just a lot of work. So we'll just pick out of the pool for each one as they die off here. And I may have some missing pieces. Let's see. We'll put our food starting here. And we'll put their life level on A. And I'm missing a water, so I'll just put a water index here. And let's see, we said that was Brent. And we'll put Brent here. Now these guys are drunk. They're all starting on 5 here. So they're a bunch of drunk bros. Their plane's crashed. And being drunk, they're going to have a hard time getting out of the wilderness. Okay, we're set up in the middle of the board. And you can see they each have a 6 on them. That's your movement allowance. And so we'll start with Chad. He's yellow and he's lost. So you do a die roll. And if I can find my die, there's my die. And we've got a 4. Now, according to the direction ability chart, a 4, 5, or 6 means start in any direction, but you must move in a straight line only. No direction changes. So we're going to move Chad. He can move 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Since he's yellow, sorry. And since he didn't see any food or water, we move those down 1 on the food and water index. Okay, number 2 is going to be the blue guy. That's Brent. Brent is 2. Consult the random direction chart printed on the board, then roll the die again, and you can start in that direction and make 1 change of motion. So the random direction chart is up in the upper corner there. There's the random direction chart. I roll a 2, and a 2 is going to be kind of a northeast. Brent goes northeast, and I'm going to say he's going to try to get off the 7 there, so we'll go 2, 3, 4. I can't make it. So this is 3 to cross that river, so he's stuck there. He loses a water and a food. Finally, Hunter. He's been poaching from the beer bong all day. Random direction chart will tell you. And a 2 ends up being the same. You're going to go this way. And I'm going to assume he's going to try to go north. So that's 2, 4, and there's the there's food and water since it's the river. And you have to end on those. So food, you have to end your movement on a food hex. Water, you have to end your movement on either a little pond or a river. Swamps don't count. So Hunter did all right. Hunter's not hurting too bad. Second turn. Let's see what happens to Chad. Chad rolls a 2. So again, we go to the random direction. 3. You're back again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. Water index goes down 1. Food index goes down 1. And it says you lose 1 life level. So that puts Chad at life level B. Chad now has a movement of 5. Okay. We go with Brent. Brent got a 4, so has to go in a straight line. So Brent will go 3, 4, 5, 6. But Brent ends up losing a food and a water level. So Brent's now down to a movement rate of 5. And then finally, Hunter. Hunter rolls a 1 and has to go in the single direction on the random direction table. They cannot move, so 6. 6 is a up to the northwest, so 1, 2, 3. Hey, dude. 4, 5, 6. Okay, no food, no water, but okay, we're back to Chad. Chad rolls a 1. So again, random direction table. Being drunk, it's a 4 straight south. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, ends movement on water, but no food. So food goes down 1. Okay, Brent goes 5. Has to go in a straight line. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now you can, if you're on the trails, if the trail turns, that's still considered a straight line. And finally, Hunter. Hunter gets a 4. Has to go in a straight line. Let's just try to go through the mountains. We're just going to try to, well, let's go this way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, no food, no water for Hunter. Hunter's now to a Okay, Chad goes. Chad gets a 3. Consult random direction table, gets a 6, and has to go 1, 2. That's all. Chad loses 2 more life levels, putting him at F. Chad's actually doing okay here. He's surviving better than the other guys are. He's just kind of wandering around. I think he's made it, what, 2 spaces from where he started. Brent goes 4, goes any direction. Well, they can only go 1 here. And since Brent loses 7 life levels now, so poor Brent dies. Hunter might make it, maybe 6. Okay, Hunter's going to go 1. but loses the 7 life levels. Hunter also dies. And then poor Chad. Chad's got a 3. Moves in direction 6, which can't move that way. Actually, you can move that way 1. And we drop the life levels. Loses 4, 5 life levels. So he dies. So as you can see, your chances of actually surviving this game are almost nil. Now, these guys are drunk, so they have a hard time getting around. But again, you can see why this game is so unpopular. Let's try a little variant of it, though. Okay, now we're going to play a little variant involving cannibalism. And so what the whole purpose of this one is a rescue video. And you will, your Bear Grylls up here, starting in, and if you have more than one player, you'd start on the various corners of the map or the various sides of the map. For every player, you add 2 missing party members and 2 decoys. Now the missing party members will be Chad and Brent, and the decoys will be false alarms. And we're going to place those, let's just mix them up. We'll place them on these little stations here. So what you want to do is you want to get to your decoys or the missing people and rescue them and get off the map. That's the thing. So unlike the other game, you only have to pass through food and water to get food and water for that day. Now when you're trying to get off the map with your rescued person, you double the amount of food and water that you use. So in other words, instead of going down 1 level per day, you go down 2. But you do have the option of eating that person, and if you do so, it brings water and food back to the starting point, and your life levels go back up. You can stop on a food and water, and if you stay there for 1 day, then you can increase the food and water on your life level index by 3 points. So, okay. Now ow, my cat just bit me. Now the nice thing about this is ow. So you roll to determine your direction. If you get a 1, 2, or 3, you can start in any direction. After moving 1 or more hexes, then you may make 1 direction change. If you roll a 4, 5, or 6, you can start in any direction and change the direction you roll as many times as you like. At the end of every turn, I roll a dice 6. If I get a 5 or 6, I have a wilderness encounter. I then look it up on this, I then roll for, at the end of every turn, I roll a d6, and if I get a 5 or a 6, I have a wilderness encounter. I make 2 different rolls. The first roll is across the top here, and it's either a 1 to 2, natural hazards, 3 to 4, animal insect, or 5 to 6, personal. I then roll down the other side, and I cross-index it and follow what happens. Okie doke, let's go ahead and play. I roll a 4. That means I can make as many direction changes as I like. So I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, I hit food and water during that turn, so I'm fine. The next player would then roll. I'm going to go ahead and roll for Bear Grylls again. This is just giving you examples. Oh, I needed to roll to see if I had an encounter. Oh, no encounter. I got a 4. Okay, second turn. I roll a 5, so I can make changes. So I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Again, I got food and water that turn. You can see how much easier this is than the lost scenario. I roll a 2 to see about wilderness encounters. Nothing. Next turn, I roll a 4, 5, or 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, it was a decoy. And 6. Now, I didn't get any food or water that time, so I'm going to lower those by 1. And let's just see what our wilderness encounter. Nothing there. It was a 3. Okay, next turn, a 2. I can make 1 direction change. That's fine. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, I'm down here, and I found Chad. So Chad's found. It's the end of the turn. My food goes down by 1 more. I'm going to try to get Chad off the board. Oh, I need to roll a wilderness encounter. 4, nothing. Okay, I get a 4 to see how I move, so I can move any direction I like. I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now I drop 2 at that turn. And that brings me down to 5. So Bear Grylls is down to a 5 movement. And my life level index goes down. We check for wilderness encounter. 3, nothing. Bear gets to go again. He gets a 4, so he can make changes. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. So he's got food and water that turn. Even with Chad along. Rolls a 4. This is a straight line since we're going through the mountains on a trail. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Made food and... well, we got food and water at the end, but that's the previous one. So food is down 2. We're now at life level C. Okay. We roll for a counter. Nothing. Roll for direction. 5. Okay, he can go 2, 3, 4, 5. Drops a water, or 2 waters, 2 foods, loses a life. I'm sorry, he's at C. Let's get that right. Okay, see if there's a wilderness encounter. Nothing. And 6, so he can move Chad. Chad survives. Okay, let's go see about Brent. I roll a 1, I can make 1 change. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, we made our water, but no food, so we lose another life. Okay. No wilderness encounter. Can make 1 change, but we're 4. Okay. And, oh, we have a wilderness encounter. So I check the back of the card. See we're on the top. I got a 2, so it's a natural hazard. I go down the other side, it's a 5. I have to remain stationary for a turn. So my food and water go down. I'm down to 2. I lost 2 life levels. Okay. So I lose a turn. Next turn goes. I get a 5. I'm going to move here and stop. And I'm going to stay here for several days. And let's just say I stay here for 2 days. So 1, 2, 3 for 1 day. 4, 5, 6. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so water's back. We are back to A level. Okay, I'm going to go see if there's a no wilderness encounter. Make 1 turn. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, food down 1. Back to B. Check for wilderness encounter. Yes, we have 1. 6. It's a personal. It's a 1. I gain 2 steps on the food index. This must have found a little food somewhere. Okay. I can make a turn. So 2, 4, 5, 6. Nope, nobody there. Okay. There was some food, but no water. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There we found Brent. Now let's just say I was down to H. Things were looking bad for Bear Grylls here. We're just going to say he's down to H level. And we say the food and the water are way down here low. He looks like he's not going to be able to go anywhere. What he could do is he could go ahead and eat Brent. And that would bring his food and his water back to the starting point as well as his life. So he's not able to get Brent off the map.
but he's able to survive himself, and then he could try to get off the map. And that's pretty much it. Overall, this game, I do like it. My overall viewpoint of this game is mixed. I have a certain nostalgia for it because it was one of the first games of this type that I ever got. I think I was 12 years old when I got this very game. However, I also recognize that it's not a great game. I do use it for some of the people that I work with in teaching wargaming because it teaches a lot of the basic concepts of movement across a hex-based terrain and movement points and things like that. They seem to enjoy it. I know when I was in 7th grade, we played this game to death in one of my classes, and my math teacher, Mr. Gertz, and I used to just sit and play this all the time, and I remember him saying, "You're going to die, Straley," which was a lot of fun. So I got a lot of good memories of this game, and I don't think it's near as bad as a lot of people say. Anyway, that's kind of my overview of outdoor survival. If you have experience with this game, tell me a little bit about it. I'd be interested in hearing what you have to say, and I thank you for watching, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.